record. So it's recording. So I'd like to introduce Carol Applegate with Applegate and Dillman Elder Law. And Carol, if you want to just share a little bit about your background, what you do in your firm, and what you're planning to do here today with us, and also introduce your associate, Maria.
Okay. Yes, I'm Carol Applegate. I'll first introduce Maria. Maria, are you on?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, there you are. There you are. Okay, and if you want to everybody can put on their cameras. So we've got a small group today, and so what I would hope to do is that we can be a little more interactive. This will be great. But Maria has worked here in the firm for many years and has really become my right-hand person when helping right-hand woman dealing with my clients and what we do on a daily basis. I'll give you a little bit of my background. I was a nurse to begin with, and then went on to law school, and really took care of both of my parents before they passed away. And so being a nurse and working with my own family, I realized how important and what a difficult task it is to be able to care for parents as they're aging. Parents with aging issues, also with children with disabilities. I mean, there's all kinds of family situations that we face that really become difficult. It's not an easy process to navigate this aging. You know, they used to tell us it was the golden years, but we found out since it's really not that much. It's not that golden sometimes. So it puts a lot of strain on families, and it puts a lot of strain on the person themselves when they need to take care. So today, when they need to be taken care of. So today what I'd like to do, I'd like to start by asking if there are any questions that you might have, or what would you like to get out of this session? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, the importance of our planning and what the difference is between an estate planning attorney and an elder law attorney. I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, our life care planning that we do here in our firm, and what the advantages are to that, and then end with any questions and so forth that you might have. So given that, you can unmute yourself and ask me any questions, and I'll make sure that I get that covered before we get started. Anybody have a burning question that they want to ask? No, nothing?
Carol, I'll throw one out there. So I think one of the future sessions you might be more into this, but maybe kind of like a precursor of how do you financially plan for the needs that your parents or yourself might have as they go forward on this pathway? Because if you have investigated any of this, some of those services are pretty costly.
Okay. I'll sort of touch on that a little bit. Yeah. Anyone else have any burning questions that they might want to make sure they get answered today? Okay, so we all know that, you know, we've been told many, many times, you know, get your affairs in order, take care of these things, pre-plan, know what you know, how you want your estate to be distributed upon your death. So we all know that that's important, but we also know, you know, that is something that we put off. We really don't want to face our own mortality. So we sort of, you know, it is a daunting task. It's hard. It's hard to think about. It's hard to take care of until a crisis occurs. Okay, a crisis occurs, or you know, someone has fallen and broken a leg and they're in the hospital, or they've gotten a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease or a diagnosis of early Alzheimer's. And then we say, oh my goodness, we're in a crisis. We gotta do something. You know, this came to light for me this winter when I, as an elder law attorney who advises people on a daily basis, get your documents done, be ready, was diagnosed with COVID in December. And you know what? My first thought was, oh my gosh, are all my documents exactly the way I want them? Are they too old? And I panicked. I could just see the headlines. Elder law attorney dies without any documents in order. You know, how good that, what kind of advertisement would that be? So, you know, fortunately, I survived. I survived that. But I will tell you this, I made sure that my documents were updated almost immediately when I was well enough to do that. So, and the problem would have been, had I passed away, my old documents would have stood. And that's how my estate would have been distributed. Not exactly the way I wanted. But so it really brings to light that, you know, we really do have to plan. And we find as family members sometimes that our parents or our loved ones have not planned either until we're in a crisis. And so we get families all the time who come in and say, oh my gosh, we got to do something because we're in a real bad situation and we don't know what to do first. We don't know what questions to ask. We don't know what mom and dad have. We think they have, you know, this amount of money, but we don't know for sure. And so one of the very first things I say is, do they have any documents? So what documents are really important to have? And I don't want to go into a lot of detail on this, but I'm going to give you about 5 documents that I think are really, really important for them to have in place. The first one is your durable power of attorney. Everyone should have a durable power of attorney. And, you know, I'm going to back up a little bit. Everybody asked me, well, you know, maybe I don't have enough of an estate or I'm too young. Why do I need these documents? Everyone needs these documents. If something should happen, we need these in place, no matter what age we are. Those documents should be in place. So the durable power of attorney is really in effect while you're living. So had I gone into the hospital with COVID and gone on a ventilator, I would have needed someone to pay my bills, pay my house payment, cash my payroll check, you know, take care of my financial affairs while I was on that ventilator. So that can happen overnight. You would not believe the number of calls we had that said, you know, mom's going into the hospital. I don't know if we have a power of attorney. I don't know if we have a healthcare representative. And, you know, at that point, they're not competent to do that. So that durable power of attorney gives someone the authority to act on your behalf and take care of your financial affairs if you should become incapacitated. So that's really, really important. Remember that power of attorney only lasts until you die, and then your will or your trust takes over from there. So the second documents are a living or a last will and testament or a trust. And this really distributes, this gives that person, your personal representative, the authority to transfer and distribute your assets. So a lot of times I'm asked the question, well, do I need a trust or do I need a will? Well, famous last words of an attorney are, it depends. And it really does depend on what your situation is, what your asset level is, how you want your assets to be distributed. So that's why it's important to think about these things and know what you want to do. So you will give that information to your attorney, and they will devise those documents according to your wishes and your goals and your needs. The next document is your healthcare representative. And oh my goodness, did we ever use this through the pandemic? The healthcare representative gives the authority to someone to make your healthcare decisions for you. All right. Now there's another form in Indiana called the post form, and those two, you know, the healthcare representative, the living will, and the post form all work together. But your healthcare representative is really that person who is going to make those decisions in these crisis situations. So you're going to want to have someone who knows your value system, who knows what you want, and you've shared those wishes with you, because they're going to make sure that your end of life decisions and your end of life care is what you really wanted to do. The living will directs your wishes for end of life. Do you want life support? Do you want a feeding tube? Do you want food and water? What do you want in those last stages of your life? Now, this really became important again during the pandemic because, you know, the ventilator has always been used as an end of life device. And you'd have to make sure you did or you did not want a that kind of life support, a ventilator. But in the times of COVID, that changed. We saw that change. Ventilators were used as a treatment, not as an end of life measure. So you might have said, I don't want end of life. I don't want that treatment. But during COVID, you might have wanted it because there was a chance that you could get better. So we made actually some changes in our documents during this COVID time to include that if it meant you could use a ventilator for a short period of time and live through that process, that you wanted that life support. So the living will, that's very important. And it's very important that you tell your wishes to your healthcare representative so they can follow through. Then the last the last document is the Hippa Form, which is a release of information, which again is so important. Your family members need to know what those, what information they can get from doctors and hospitals and all those kinds of things in the time of illness. So those 5 documents are really, really important. And your average estate planning attorney, I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between an estate planning attorney and an elder law attorney, is the estate planning attorney is going to say, here's the documents you need. Let's get those done, get them signed, and then you're gone and you're out of their door and you're on till the next crisis occurs. Okay. But it is important. I must say, everyone must get those documents in place. So what's the difference between an estate planning attorney in our office? So my being a nurse really gave me a different perspective when it came time to take care of my elderly clients, because we all know as we age that we have an increase in health problems. Okay. So the care that we need sometimes is very important. That's what really, I always say, that care issue really guides that boat through this process. So I devised a program that I call life care planning. And I think it's something that we all need to think about, because as we age, there's some very important factors that we need to look at. The number one is our health and our ability to function, okay? And we know that these 4 elements are really on a continuum. So we can be very healthy one day and be very unhealthy the next day. We can have a stroke, we can have a fall, we can get a diagnosis. And so that can vary. We can also get some treatments to where we can be very, very sick, but then we get better. So this is a continuum that is going to go back and forth, and it's going to change. All right. This continuum is constantly changing. I had an appointment set up for Friday. I got a call this morning. I was going to do a home visit, get a call this morning, Dad's in the hospital. So you see that changes very, very quickly and overnight. The second element that we always are looking at is, where are they living? All right. So I go out to this home and Dad's living in the house, but he goes into the hospital and they say he cannot go back home and live by himself. He cannot go back home and live with a daughter living with him because his condition is such. So when where you're living is very important. You go from living in your home to full-time, what we call skilled nursing facility, skilled care. So that continuum can change. You can have a fall, break a hip, go into surgery, and be in the hospital, and yet you get better, and you might go back to an assisted living or an independent living situation. So that continuum is changing constantly as well. The third continuum that we look at is your personal finances and the cost. We know that as you progress in the facility that you are living, your costs are going to increase. Okay. So if you're pretty independent and you're at home, your cost is going to be relatively low. If you fall and go into the hospital and you're in skilled care nursing, your healthcare cost is going to be increasing. And so from the very, very beginning, we take those three factors and we say, okay, what's your health condition? Where are you living? And what is your financial situation at that time? So we want to know how much money do you have, and as your needs increase, your costs increase, and are you going to have enough money to be able to pay for that care, no matter what the situation you're in. We also know that when those three continuums are not in sync, you're living at home, your healthcare needs are high, and you have very little money, there's a disconnect there. And what does that disconnect cause? It causes families and the person to be very stressed and almost to their wits' end sometimes. So we want to get those continuums in sync with each other so that if your health requires you to have a lot of care, you're in a facility where you're receiving that care. And thirdly, you've got enough money to pay for that. Those are three continuums. The fourth continuum is benefits. So how do we get those in sync? If you don't have any money and you need a lot of care, we use public benefits. We use some kind of a tool to be able to stretch your assets to where you can pay for that care. Okay. So some of those benefits might be long-term care insurance. I met with a person last evening who has good long-term care insurance. There's she's got an unrestricted amount. It pays $346 a day. She's in good shape. Okay, that's great. But we're not all fortunate to have long-term care insurance. And as we age, it's harder and harder to get long-term care insurance, and they pay less and less. So long-term care insurance will help us. VA benefits sometimes help cover the cost of care. Second mortgages on your home will help you pay for some of the care that you need. And then we also go to public benefits, which is Medicaid. So we try to take those four continuums and make sure that we are constantly looking at those four continuums to make sure that they're in sync with each other. All right. Any questions thus far? So you can see where it's hard to make good decisions when you don't have all of these factors, when you haven't looked at all of these factors. So your routine, your normal estate planning attorney is going to ask you some questions about finances, and they're going to do your documents, and then you're going to be on your way. Here at Applegate and Dillman, we have a team of people who are going to assist you in this process. So the first thing that we do is an assessment of all of these things. And our team consists, the most important person in this team is going to be our ECC, or our Elder Care Coordinator. Okay. So right now I have Edna Roush, who is our Elder Care Coordinator, and I, being a nurse, sort of fit that role sometimes as well. And Edna is involved in the care from the beginning. So once that person comes in our office and we have an initial consultation and we get an idea of where this family is, the next step is she's going to go into the home or into the facility and do that physical assessment and that home assessment, or the nursing home assessment, so that we know where is this person? Where is this family? Are they trying to care for this person in their home and take turns with providing that care? So that is the first step. So Edna our ECCs would do that. Very few firms really practice the way we do, in that we look at this as a holistic approach, and we have several team members that contribute to this approach. So the ECC is going to really assess this, and then she's going to be like the air traffic controller, okay? She's going to look and make sure that all the rest of these things are being done in a timely manner. If there's issues in the family or with this person that they're caring for, she's going to take the call and get the information or help this family in any way that she can. And so she's going to guide this process as it goes. Sometimes we don't hear a whole lot from clients, and then suddenly someone has a crisis and it builds up again. She's also going to be able to recommend facilities, in-home care, what kind of care do they need, and be able to recommend to the family where they might be able to go for that care. She also follows them. So once they're placed, maybe they're placed in a facility, and through COVID, we had a lot of complaints about care. We weren't able to go into facilities, but she monitors the care that they're getting, no matter whether it's at home or in a facility. If there's issues in that facility, she's going to call for a care conference, and she's going to attend that conference and be your, she's going to be your advocate. One of the big roles that all of us play is being the client advocate. So everyone has their own their own advocate. Nursing home has attorneys, everybody has it, but the client does not. So we are that client's advocate. Okay. So she's just really in there taking care of this person and also taking care of the family. The second team that we have is our financial team, because we said, we got to know how much money you have. So that team, we've got a Medicaid specialist. We have those on that team can do VA benefits, but they're going to do a complete and thorough evaluation of your assets at that time. How much money do you have? Where is it being held? What is your house worth? All those kind of things. And from that, then they're going to help with the Medicaid process or the benefits, getting those benefits that they need for that care. Okay. So we have that team of financials. We also have a team that does all of this estate planning work. So we have an estate planning team. Then we're all working simultaneously. And most of our work is done up front because that's where it's needed the most. So we have that EP team that's looking at that durable power of attorney and looking at that healthcare representative and looking at that living will to make sure those documents are all going to be in compliance with what we plan to do in the future. For example, Medicaid says we want to know that the person that's doing this planning for Medicaid has the authority to do that. That authority is found in the power of attorney. So we want to make sure that all of those terms and that power of attorney is going to be able, that the person, that the agent that is working for the person is going to be able to do what they need to do to get the job done. They're going to make sure that that living will is updated and we know exactly what they want. So that estate planning team is working at the same time. Yes, Barbara. You're muted.
We have a comment in the chat. So Carol, I've seen the TV ads for a company that will buy your home and let you continue to live in it until you're ready to leave or something along those lines. What is your opinion of this option?
Yes, that's like reverse mortgage, and I have someone calling my cell phone all the time saying, you have a house, I'd like to buy it, those kind of things. I shy away from that. There are some complications with second mortgages. And I would really investigate that and look at it very closely, because sometimes they require that the family, if that person goes into a facility, they call the mortgage in. I mean, they want to be paid right away. So there are some very, it's complicated. And my personal opinion is I don't use second mortgages very often unless I really know the situation. That's a good question because we're seeing a lot of that. Yeah. Anything else? Anybody else? Good question. Same way with, I get a lot of questions on long-term care insurance. I had a client say, she was like 75 years old, and she said, well, I need to get like long-term care insurance. And I said, I don't think at your age, your premium is going to be so high. I'm not sure that's the right thing to do at this point. So, you know, things change constantly in that world, in that arena, and there are some new products coming out that might be better fit some of those needs. Again, that's why you need that legal team to help you make those kind of decisions. I also get the question on long-term care insurance a lot is, well, I've had this policy for 25 years. Should I drop it now? You know, should I quit paying and put that money somewhere else? Again, I can't answer that until I look at this complete picture for you. Mm-hmm.
So we have another question. How often should we update our living will?
So the question, that was one thing I was going to cover. Number one, when you get these documents done, make sure that you know where they are, okay? And make sure your family knows where they are. So many times someone will come in and say, well, I have a trust, but I don't know what it says, and I'm not sure I know where it is. Well, that doesn't do us a lot of good. And so I say life changes and circumstance change. If you have a major change in your family, you should update your documents. But I would also then say, probably every year to two, you need to review these and make sure that everything is in order. Just like I said, we made changes in our living wills for the COVID. And so this would be a good time to make sure that you look at those. People do not know what are in their documents. And with this life care plan in our office, that's one of the things that we do. We contact the clients every 3 months, and every year we have an annual review. We look at their documents to make sure they're in order. We make sure that their finances are in order. So every single year we're updating this, because as we age, we know that things change very quickly sometimes. And it's just like with diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Many times, you know, just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean you're incompetent, but that the competency level can change very quickly. So it's good for us to make sure that we're keeping tabs on that as we go through this process, so that if those documents need to be updated, they're updated when you're still competent. If you're not competent, you know what happens? We have to go to guardianship sometimes. That's expensive and it's illegal. We have to go through the court. So you know how it is to go through court. It's a slow process and it's expensive. So keeping those documents accurate and updated is very important. That's a good question too.
Carol, can I ask you a question then along that line?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're updating the documents, so if you have a power of attorney and then say, what, a year, 3 years, 5 years down the road, you decide to change and make somebody else in charge of your power of attorney, does everybody have to sign off on that document then? And
No.
or
it's your power of attorney and you're the person that signs that document.
oh, okay.
So you do not have to let anyone know. You can sign it and change it, and no one needs to know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we had another question in the chat. Should the documents be stored in a safety deposit box?
The problem with the safety deposit box is that if you have not made prior arrangements to the time, you know, with the bank, that someone else has a key and has the authority to get into that safety deposit box, sometimes upon your death, it's locked, and it makes it very hard for someone to get into that, to get those documents. So I always say, keep them in a safe place. I sometimes even say, give them to a family member so that they have those documents. So that you have them when you need them.
So do they have to have the original signature, or are copies acceptable?
Well, we like to have, I usually send the original copies with the family member, and I keep it on our computer system. Everything's going digital now, so the originals are not as important as they used to be. But many times, some of the judges will want to make sure that that is the authentic, real document.
So if someone does not have a POA and something terrible happens, so they're sitting there at the hospital or whatever, does everything just come to a standstill, or how do things get taken care of?
Well, it makes it complicated. In technically in our office, we're not to even be talking with anyone unless they are the power of attorney. In the hospitals, when there's emergencies and so forth, I think there are probably their standard practices. If it's a real emergency, they go ahead, but they're going to, we get calls all the time, send the power of attorney over, we need it right away. So it's very important to have that in place.
So do you ever have to deal with situations where you have an adult child or siblings that are in disagreement over what to do with mom or dad, and how do you handle that?
Oh, no, we never have that problem. That's a new one. I need to. No. I always say, one of the things that we try to do when we talk with families is to get the family dynamics. And I say, do you have that difficult child? Do you have that black sheep? Yes, we have. That's very frequent. And, I say I have 2 children and they don't agree on anything. So, my my biggest challenge was, okay, if I pass, I don't want to set up a war in my family. So who's going to take care of this, So we really want to know those kind of dynamics in the family so that we can deal with that. We have gone so far as to say, okay, there is, we get the whole family in here, around, my office is in an old house. And so we have like a dining room table here. And we get everybody around the dining room table and we say, we've got to get some of this worked out. I had one situation with a family where there were 2 daughters and they had both been appointed as power of attorney, which both had equal power. And so one daughter would go see mom and take her a purse, as a gift. The other daughter would go in and take that purse away, said she doesn't need it. One daughter went in and said she needs memory care. The other daughter came in and says, no, pull her out. She doesn't need memory care. So finally, and it was just something like that every single day. And I finally brought the 2 power of attorneys in and I said, look, this isn't working. We're either going to go to court and fight this out and spend a whole lot of money. And that money is your inheritance if it lasts that long. So one of you is going to have to resign. One of you going to, we can't have both. It's not working. It's not fair to mom to be pulled in and out of a facility and be shuffled all over the place. What are we going to do? And we sat here until one of them said, I'll resign. I'll let my sister do it. So I've been trained as a mediator as well. So sometimes we just get the families in here and we mediate. We do everything we can to try not to go to court, because it never, it's like in a divorce. When you go to court, neither one of you are going to be happy. And so going to court to solve these family issues it's very, very difficult. And I always say too that when we're going through this process, it's when all the garbage comes out on the table. So one child may say, mom always liked her better. And so that's why she's treating her differently. So we just try to get the history and we try to work through that. Not always easy. That's a good question though, because we have that a lot. And it can be minor things. There's also a lot of disagreement at times. We have family members in here and we have mom and dad in here and they want to talk about those end of life issues. And the kids say, no, we can't talk about it, mom. You're going to be here forever. We'll just deal with it when it comes. But mom wants to tell them what she wants. I always say the best gift that you can give your children is to let them know what you want at end of life and during and afterlife. Because then they don't have to guess. You know, I want to be cremated. No, I don't want to be cremated. I want a ventilator. No, I don't want. If you know that, you can make decisions for them because you know how they feel. And the children can go away with not feeling guilty and not wondering, what should I do next? They've already been told this is what we want. Good question. Any other questions? Those end of life discussions are very difficult. And that's when I usually get out the Kleenex box and, you know, it's hard. It's very hard for someone to take the pen in their hand and sign that I do not want any treatment at end of life. It's okay to talk about, but when we actually put our name, our pen to paper, it becomes hard. Dorothy, did you have another question?
Yeah, so how do you address financial abuse? I know that's huge in the elder world of the person who has power of attorney using the dollars to pay their own bills for their own vacations, whatever.
Yes.
What legal routes are there to handle that situation?
If there is someone who is abusing the power of attorney powers, we can file with the court that they give us an accounting of where this money has gone. We can, and then we go on further and say, okay, we want an accounting, where did it go? We can ask that they be removed, you know, and then we usually go into guardianship proceedings. Okay. But yes, there are ways to make sure that that person is using that money as they should. That's why we're seeing it's very difficult these days to get a guardianship for that reason. We want the judge wants to make sure that the right person is being appointed as guardian over this person. They also in a guardianship require that you do yearly or biannual accountings of where is the money going. And I mean, there are some judges out there that are down to the penny. Okay, because there has been abuse. So it's harder to get a guardianship and there's much more accounting measures that have to be completed to make sure that that's being done correctly. Any other questions? So you can see, how are we doing on time here? So you can see that the life care plan is different in that, you know, we are with you and the family for a lifetime. So when you sign up for our life care plan, we're going to be with you until you pass, until the family, you know, until you're no longer with us. And you're with us. I can give you example after example where, you know, we get the person in, we get their documents done, we have their financial situation done, and then really there's not much that happens until someone dies or until the money runs out. And then we have to do a Medicaid, or we have to do institute the long-term care insurance. So there are, or a spouse dies, okay? And then we have to reshuffle this because it's going to be different. We want to make sure that the second person that's still here is also going to be taken care of. And so there's a readjustment period there. So there's times where families are fine for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then, oh, it all breaks loose again. Or someone, falls or has a diagnosis.
Carol, is there some point in like financial resources that you say, oh, you need to shift to more extreme measures? Don't just get along, go along and keep doing what you're doing. Is there when do you decide, oh, we really should protect assets or do something?
Well, we start from the very beginning. So when we're talking about asset protection, we're going to discuss this. I think Lisa's going to be discussing this in a little bit later. If to protect assets means that we're going to put some assets aside and get through a period of time, which is 5 years. And then if you should go on Medicaid, those assets that are protected are not counted and can be left to family members or whatever. So we evaluate that right up front. Do we have that 5 years? Okay. If I have a 96-year-old walk in here and they're in good health, I'm probably not going to recommend asset protection because I don't think we're going to have 5 years, you know? So we really look at their health issues, and that's really important there. Do we have those 5 years to focus on asset protection, or is it more of a crisis situation? That's another good reason why you should, plan early and ahead, because we want that 5 years. Medicaid says if you transfer your money or you give it away for asset protection, you're going to pay a penalty for that unless you've given it away 5 years before. So 5 years can be a long time when you're getting up into the 70s and 80s. We don't know what's going to happen. So we really evaluate that right up front. We actually, in our financial analysis, we look at their monthly expenses, we look at where their assets are, how much they have, do they have a house to sell? And so we're going to be able to predict, okay, maybe they need to decrease their spending at their monthly bills, maybe we need to readjust some of those assets so that it's going to stretch it for a longer period of time. So we do that right up front. We can't give you an exact number. Your money's going to last for this long, but we can tell you what's at risk and what you're going to lose if you don't do it. Okay. So one of the questions while we're talking about finances, okay, well, what does this program cost? Okay. Because I think one of you asked a question about, these services are expensive. Well, let me ask you this. If you gave me $10,000 or even $20,000, and I could turn around and give you $250,000 back, would you say that was a good investment? Most of the time you would say, yeah. You're going to have to spend a little money now in order to save money in the future. And that's what we try to do for you. You're going to pay us a fee to do this work, but we may be able to save your home from Medicaid. We may be able to save some of your investment. We may be able to get you on Medicaid quicker so that you're not paying privately out of your own pocket. And so we try to say, if you invest this amount of money with us, we can save you this amount of money, hopefully. And normally that's quite a bit of money to be able to save you. So is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it.
So what age should you consider? I mean, should we be when you're 30, 40, 50, 60? When is the proper time to consult?
I would suggest that at age 40 and 50, you start thinking about some of this. Okay. And you get we do a lot of just consultation. What do you have? What's at risk? what should you do with this house? Those kind of things. I have a lot of clients who come in, a lot of families who come in and say, man, we should have come to you 10 years ago. Okay. When you get up into the 80s, sometimes it can be too late. So 50, 60 is an ideal age, but it's, the first thing that I said at the beginning is we don't like to talk about this. And when you remember when you were 50 and 60, your kids were in college, you were active, you thought nothing's ever going to happen. So I don't have to think about that. And we push it off and we keep pushing it off. So my goal would be to educate families that the earlier in your life that you at least begin to think about it and start doing some things to be ready for this, the better. Yeah. I will tell you that I am seeing a trend, and I have a client right now who is 39 years old with frontal lobe dementia.
Oh.
I have several clients who are in their 50s. So I am seeing a trend where, and I don't know what's happening, but I also have some theories that with this pandemic and all of this, we may be seeing some of this trend where it's getting these devastating diagnoses are occurring earlier and earlier in our lives. And so we are working with this family with trying to get their financial situations stable for the wife, because she has many years yet to live, and being able to care for him in the proper setting and pay for that care for him. Those are really hard cases. They're not only heartbreaking, but there's a lot of all these other issues, all these other continuums come into place, and we will follow them until we don't know how long.
So if you have somebody that maybe didn't plan ahead and now they're in a crisis situation, are there children, there may be a moral obligation, is there a legal obligation for the children to pay for care if they have resources?
Right now, there are some laws on the books, but they're not enforced right now for children to be responsible for care of their parents. So, but who knows what the future will bring on that. That's a good question. So it's one of those things that, again, with this financial analysis, we can really take a look at that. Okay. So, the other thing that this program brings to, well, let me back up just 1 minute and sort of follow up on that, Barbara, a little bit. So even though if asset protection is protecting assets in the future, but we also do crisis planning. And so if you have not planned and you feel like, crisis occurs and you've got to do something and someone has to get into a facility, there is crisis planning. In that case, we can save about half of your assets. So we can still save some of your assets if you come to us early enough. Now, some of the facilities will say, well, spend all your money and then you can go on Medicaid. And I say, no, you don't want to spend all your money down to zero, because when you go on Medicaid, you only get $52 a month, all right, for your personal needs. That's not very much money. My mom broke her front tooth off, at least not, we had it fixed, and then she broke that one off, broke the implant and so forth, at least 6 times. And so if I didn't have a little pot of money for her, it would have been hard for me to take her to the dentist, So you need some pot of money to be able to take care and improve their quality of life. So that's why I say, let us help you save some of that money so that they have a better quality of life. Okay.
There's another chat question. Do you know of a resource that could be shared that has information on things like the 5 documents everyone should have?
We have,
I can send resources.
I think, Maria, we've got a lot of information, yes. And how you should count on those. And
Yeah. Can everybody hear me okay?
You're on mute.
I know, but it'll
Oh,
echo
okay.
from. If you put your email address in the chat here, I can send you a couple of different resources that you can have, or you could pass on to somebody else if you'd like. Just if you enter your email in the group chat, and I'll put mine in here as well. Everything that goes, questions and follow-ups that go to Carol usually always come to me anyway, so I'll put my email in there. And that way, if you have questions for Carol, or if you want a consultation to maybe talk, our consultations are complimentary. So it's an hour of free time, and you kind of can give your situation, and we can say what Carol said earlier, like what's at risk, and what we can do to help. So I'll put my email in here as well if you want a consultation, or if you want just some questions answered.
So I want to say too, and sort of wrapping up here, and the biggest, I think the greatest contribution that we can make to families during this period of time is that peace of mind that it brings to you as family members, that you have a professional team of people that you can call on anytime and get your questions answered and your crisis answered. We are here to help and to guide you through this process. I have so many clients who come in and they hire us and we're working with them and they just say, you just don't know how, it's just such a relief to be able to call you when we need you. And 5 years later, we haven't seen you much, but oh, it's so good. Now we really need you. And you're here and you're helping us. And that is so important to families. It's worth every penny of that to be able to have someone to be able to call. We have even gone so far. We have a family right now who has a mom in the nursing facility who is declining, but they go to Florida for vacation about this time every year. And they called, and they said, you know, we really want to go on vacation. What should we do? We said, you go. The ECC will go out every other day and check on mom and call you and let you know that she's okay. And that gave them such peace of mind that they had somebody checking on mom while they were gone. We had another family member whose daughter was going to get married, and her husband was in the facility, and she said, I can't even go to my daughter's wedding because I'm worried about my husband. We said, you go, you enjoy that wedding, and we'll go out there and check on him every day, and we'll let you know how he is. So that's what our ECC does. So we're not only serving your legal needs and your financial needs, but we really try to help you with the emotional part of all of this. I took care of my mom, as I said. She was a difficult person to take care of. And even though I do this every single day, and I tell my clients what they should do in certain situations, it was a complete different situation when it came to my mom, because she was my mom. And so we all need that emotional support during this time. It's not easy. And it's the emotional part that really tugs at our heart. And it's really hard when we have to make those tough decisions about placing him in a nursing home or, whatever it might be. So we are here for you as well, emotionally, in this whole process. And that means a lot.
So do you want to give them a little bit of a sneak preview of what sessions 2 and 3 might include, just to kind of wrap up?
I think session 2 is going to be, if I've got these in my mind, and Maria will tell me.
Downsizing.
Yeah, it's going to be about downsizing. You know what? That's an emotional thing too, because I'm sort of facing that myself. I have a house and I don't need all this big house. But do you think my biggest objection is, and when I look at this, I say, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all this stuff? And I don't want to give up my house. And most of us, you could be 100 years old and you don't want to give up your house. So we're going to talk about downsizing a little bit, what that means. And then I think the third session is going to be on the asset protection, more financial. So we are here, as Maria said, we give a lot of recommendation, a lot of consultations, and we're here to help you, and that's what we want to do.
Thank you very much.
You've had good questions, and if there's anything else, do you have me for?
Yes, and I just put, that's our office phone number as well. So if you're not great at email or you prefer to give us a call, that's the phone number. You can always ask for me, and we can get you set up with whatever it is that you're needing.
And one last comment, and Roseanne can, she's been a faithful attendee of our sessions, but during the pandemic, it was very, very hard to keep contact with our clients and talk to them. So we started a series of classes. We've had a cooking class, we had a journaling class, I did a painting class, doing another painting class, and a wreath, we're making wreaths. So we're trying to do things that to connect with our clients. Even though it's on Zoom, it has nothing to do with guardianship, documents, whatever, but we just get on and have fun. And it's fun to see their faces and they see us. And
it was very nice during this because I'm in a big house by myself, and it was something to look forward to every month and make you get up and move and do something. And the only one I wasn't very great at was the painting, and you're so great at that. And that was not fun. And I tried to even have my granddaughter do it for me later, and we all decided we weren't going to paint. But the cooking one and some of the other things, I make everything very hard.
Uh-huh. Oh,
And that's
shoot.
why I wasn't happy with how I was doing with the other one. It has to be this. So then I'd rather just not do it. That's what a procrastinating perfectionist.
Well, you know, not everybody's a painter, and I don't even consider myself a good painter, but I get on and, you know, mess with some.
You're
Well,
good.
you had
You're
some
good.
lovely things you've done, though. It was just beautiful.
But it just gets your mind off of some things, you know?
Yes.
We need that. We need that. We've all gone through a really hard time, you know? And it's just, we're all depressed and not knowing what to do next. And it's just a good diversion. So we do have fun. We do have fun as well.
Yeah, so if you're
The
interested in
Wreath
this process-
session's coming up here. I don't know, Maria, do you still have spots open for that?
Ooh, that's a good question. So we're collaborating with Marquette, and there's 35 slots available. I'm supposed to send her my list of attendees today so she can match them up with hers and see how many we have. My guess is there's probably a few spots open, but I'm not positive. But it's a spring wreath making class, and we will deliver the materials to you if you want to participate. And it's an hour long. You kind of just, we give instruction and you just kind of do it together over Zoom. You can hang it up in your house or on your door or wherever you prefer. But yeah, it's a free class, and we'll provide the materials. So if you're interested in that, that's next Wednesday, April 14th. So I would try to get me, if you're interested, give me your email address and everything very soon, or send me an email so that I can make sure that you're on the list.
And we have some of those coming up every month till
However long. Yeah.
however long. We're
Yeah.
going to do some planting some flowers, and
Yeah.
just trying to do some fun things, you know?
Yeah.
So, and our next session is, of course, next Wednesday for session 2, and then the following Wednesday for session 3. So at 11 o'clock, same bat time, same bat channel for all of us that used to watch Batman when we were young. But anyway, so we appreciate you joining us today, and hope you found some useful information, and hope that you'll join us for sessions 2 and 3. And if people miss session 1, they can still jump in on session 2 and 3. So if you have anybody you know that you think might benefit from talking about downsizing or the financial impact of, you know, life planning, then have them join. Just reach out. You all have my email because I sent you all the links. So let me know, and I'll be happy to send them the link, or you can feel free to forward it. I just kind of like to know who's coming so I can know what to expect. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, and I would say too, if you've got certain subjects that you would like to hear or have a class on, we'd be glad to, you know, make it something that you have questions about and would like to hear more about. We'd love to do that.
Well, that about wraps it up here. So anybody else?
Thank you very much, everyone.
Great. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope to see you next time. Thank
All
you.
right, bye-bye.
Thank you, Barb. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.